All right, that's fine. Okay, perfect. So good evening again, everyone. My name is Tolu Yesufu, for those who I haven't met or spoken with. And today we'll be going through Jira and what Jira is and how we use Jira. Some of you might be familiar with Jira, some of you may not be, but what we'll be doing today will be more of a practical session and less of a theoretical session. And I would really like the session to be interactive. We would get to a point where I would need somebody to actually share their screen, and we will use your screen to walk through how we can get ourselves on the Jira board, and then I will take over the screen after that. But what I would also advise is that whilst I get someone to share their screen, I would suggest and advise that everyone else does the same thing, replicate the same thing that we're doing on the screen on your hand as well. That would be my suggestion. So introductions done. We'll move on. So what we'll be doing today is we'll be looking at what is Jira. What's a Jira board? What is Jira software itself? Step-by-step creation of a Jira board, creation of issues. So when we say issues in Jira, what we're referring to is our epics, our stories, our tasks, subtasks, bugs, and all of that. Similar to what you know on your current Azure DevOps boards as your epics, your features, your stories, your tasks, and all of that. And then assigning tickets in Jira. So we will be going through basic stuff in Jira, things that, don't even let me say basic, let me put it this way. We'll be going through things that you should know on how to use Jira. And once you get yourself familiarized with what we're doing today, trust me, you're good to go with Jira. Okay, you're good to go with Jira. So what is Jira? Just very quickly, like I said, more practical today, less theoretical. So you won't be seeing a lot of slides from me today. What is Jira? So Jira is an agile project management tool that supports any agile methodology, be it Scrum, Kanban, or other agile frameworks. It's similar to your Azure DevOps board that you're currently using now, guys. It's similar. Maybe a couple of features may be different, or maybe the way we call certain things may be different on both boards. Azure DevOps, as you know, is a Microsoft product, and Jira is an Atlassian product. And so that's one of the differences. Similar products owned by two different organizations. And then the other thing is you would find that in Jira, we don't have features. In Azure DevOps, we have features. So we have different layers, pretty similar, to be honest. If you're really good at using your Azure DevOps, you probably will catch up with Jira quite quickly. Just follow the steps that we're going through today and you'll be fine. And then the other thing I would say is just practice, practice, practice. Like we know, practice makes perfect. Okay, cool. Now, using your Jira boards, just like your Azure DevOps board, you can create your backlogs. We have roadmaps on there as well. Create reports. You can get add-ons as well to help you plan and track and manage all your agile software development projects from a single tool, which is our Jira board. Great stuff. Bear with me 1 second, guys. Thank you very much. Cheers. If you have cheers, you too. Okay, all right, so moving on. Apologies for that. So what you will see next on my screen now will just be like 3 different screenshots, and I will tell you why I have those screenshots there. The reason I have those screenshots there is that you would find that if you go online, if you go on your Google, whatever, Microsoft, whatever you use, and you type in Jira there, and you want to sign up, for the free Jira software, you would probably find different ways to sign in. Don't fret about that. Don't start asking, why is mine different from the other person's own? It's just pretty much if you find something like this, all you need to click on is start my free trial. Okay. If you find something like this, just put in your email address that you want to sign up with. If you find something like this, same thing, just put your email address in that you want to sign up with. Okay. That's pretty much it. And that's enough of the theoretical side of things that we're going to be seeing today. Now, I want someone to volunteer to actually share the screen if you want us to use your screen and use your screen to drive the session today, and then I will take over afterwards. Biodun, what is the problem?
Sorry, I wanted to volunteer, but I click on the reaction. Sorry about.
Okay, all right. So Biodun, yeah, you can, if you're volunteering, please share your screen. Okay, so let's go on your browser and let's go on Jira.
Do I need to open a new?
It's up to you. Just open your browser, whatever. No, we're not using your Azure board. We're going on, just go on Google or something, or Microsoft Edge, whatever you're using. Yeah, just open a new tab. Yeah, and then let's go on Jira. Okay, so click on the first one that says Jira official site. Let's use that one. So click on that first, and then let's pause. Let's stop. Okay. I'm hoping that at this point, everyone else is starting to follow the steps as well on your side. I know the recording is there for you to watch back and then, try and replicate what we've been on this call, but you might actually find it useful to follow the steps here, because one thing that I've noticed from sessions like this is that people might actually have different versions. And so what we're seeing on the screen might be different from what you'll be seeing on your screen. And you might want to ask questions on how to navigate the board on your side. So if you're able to follow the steps, please do so if you're able to. Okay. All right. So this is one of the screenshots that I just showed a few minutes ago, seconds ago. So Biodun, do you already have an account with Jira? Have you been on Jira before, or this is your first time?
This is my first time.
Okay, all right. So do you want to use your Google email?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so if you want to put that in that text box there, please. Okay, and then you click on sign up. The checkbox there is optional. So check your email. If there are things you don't want us to see on your email because we're recording, you can stop sharing and check your email and then start sharing again, so that we don't get to see everything on your email if you don't want us to. Check your email. There should be a code in your email.
Okay, I'm just doing that. Okay, nice.
Okay.
There's no code. It's not bringing up any code.
Okay, maybe it's taking a few seconds to come through. You refresh your screen, check your spam email. There will definitely be a code sent to you. If you put in the right email, biodun_id@yahoo.com, there should be an email with a code. If there's anyone else following us and you're at this point as well, let us know if you get a code in your email as well.
Yeah,
yes, I'm following.
There's
Yes,
no
I got
code
the code.
as well. There's no code.
There's no code.
I got
I'll
a
send
code.
you send.
Email
Okay,
sent with new code. So you should get the code now, Biodun.
Okay.
Check again.
Sorry, is it on the email that says Atlassian?
Did you already?
Yes,
Yeah.
I got a code. It's under that Atlassian.
Yeah, I didn't receive a code, so maybe I should just stop sharing.
Okay, does someone else wants to share? So you definitely check your spam, Biodun, you will definitely get a code. So someone else wants to share the screen. Otherwise, if it's going to slow us down, I can share my screen and I will create a new account in a few minutes. So someone else wants to share?
I already put my
Yes, I'm
code.
sure.
Yeah, even if you've already put your codes, that's fine. You can share. Whoever starts to share first, we will go with you.
What they said, they didn't bring up anything about code. They said verification email.
Sorry, please. What I have on my own is Monday Dev. I don't know if I'm on the right page.
I'm not sure what that one is.
Check your
Yeah, that's the same thing I have too.
Monday what, sorry?
Monday
Yeah,
Dev from
Okay, so did you follow this? Did you follow the same steps? Because I don't know what
yes,
that Monday dev thing is.
I just Google search. I type Jira and I click enter.
Okay, maybe I will come back to you in a second. I really don't want to post too much, but let me just quickly have a look at what these guys are saying. Maybe you will share your screen back in a second. So I don't want us to have too much pauses in between. I want it to be a smooth. But whoever is seeing the Monday stuff, please start sharing. Maybe if you stop sharing for 1 second, don't do anything else, just stop sharing.
Okay.
I'm in already.
Okay, if you're getting the Monday stuff, please share your screen very quickly. Let's see what you're seeing.
Sorry, I'm using my laptop to do this, but I'm using my phone to connect.
Okay, all right, cool. So let's continue with the session then. Maybe I'll please start sharing. Let's continue with the session, then we might resolve. If we have enough time at the end of this session, we will then have a look at what you're saying. Who's sharing?
Sorry, good evening. This is Samuel. I already got the code and this is where it brought me.
Okay, so you've put the code in and it's brought you
Yes.
here. Okay, so
Yes.
just to be fair, let's continue with Mabel's sharing her screen.
Okay, I just wanted to
And then
confirm.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay, so if you're
Please.
not sharing screen, please be muted, please. Thank you, because we're recording the session. Okay, all right, cool. So Mabel, so you've got the code, you've put the code in and it's brought you to this screen, right?
Yeah.
Now, what you want to do now is create your Atlassian URL. So in that box, if you click in that box, did you type that in already before?
No, it just automatically did that.
Okay, so is that what you want to use? If it automatically put that in, then you can remove that and put maybe your name or whatever you want your Atlassian URL to be.
Okay, so yeah, just my first name. Yeah.
Okay, then click on go to Jira. Okay, so pause here. So the person that shared their screen, don't stop sharing, please. The person that shared their screen earlier on, just pop in your full name in there and your password in there to get yourself into the next step. Okay. Now, what this screen is asking us now is, you can skip the questions here, or you can click on skip question and just keep going on, or okay, you've skipped, or you can actually make a selection. Okay. So we're here now and it's saying select a template for your first project. Okay, so we have 3 different templates on there. We have the Kanban, we have the Scrum, we have the business. Okay, so depends on what sort of project that you guys are working on and what sort of template best suits your project, then you can select one of these templates. Now, usually we had that question that we skipped. If we didn't skip it and we made a selection, it would give us another there will be another pop-up with more questions, make a selection, more pop-up, and it's just pretty much to help you customize the board that best suits the sort of projects that you want to do. So it's saying now that the popular one is Kanban, but in reality, what if your project is more of a Scrum project and you need a Scrum template, right? So the fact that it says popular, Kanban is popular, doesn't mean you have to go with Kanban if it's not best suited for your project, okay? So let's click on Scrum. Let's go with Scrum. Okay, and then click on next. Okay, all right. So some people might not be seeing the same view that we're seeing right now. You might actually have more views where you're asked to create a project, and all of that, but that is absolutely fine. We'll come back to you if you're not seeing the same view, and we'll walk you through whatever you're seeing. Which best describes you? That's just another question. They just want to understand what level of what's your level of expertise in terms of, or expertise or experience in terms of using Jira. So I'm not familiar with Jira. I'm somewhat familiar with Jira. I'm very familiar with Jira. It's up to you. Select one. You're not familiar with Jira. I thought you were. I thought as much. Start using Jira. Okay. Cool. There you go. So what you have on there on that pop-up is pretty much just like a walkthrough of, gather your work here, work in your backlog is, if you click on next, it will tell you it's 1 of 5, just like a walkthrough of, yeah. In Jira, we call issues. So we'll look at all of that. So just click next. We'll look at all of that in minutes. Okay. For everyone that is following the steps, you can close that box at the top there. It's just like a quick start on, Jira itself. Okay, anyone else following this step and has any problems or any issues or any blockers, like you would call it? Thank you, Mabel. You can stop sharing.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have a problem, but I didn't receive, I'm exactly where we are now, but I didn't receive that 6-digit code. It just automatically upgraded me. And I followed through to that place where it was asking us to choose a particular stop. There was a screen we saw there. So I'm where we are, but I didn't have to fill in the code. I just want to be sure I'm doing the right thing.
That's fine. That's fine. Like I said at the start, we would probably have people on the call that has different experiences. Okay. I found there was a time, I think the very first time I was taking this session, because I have my own private Jira board, but I needed to create another Jira board that I would use for this session. And that was like a couple of months back or years back. And I created 3 different Jira boards. And I actually created those Jira boards with 3 different processes. There was one that exactly what you've just said now happened to me, where I didn't have to get a code in. I just got the questions and I was able to get into Jira. I got the code on another step, different steps. The thing is, as long as you are on the Jira board, you're fine. Okay. Toluwalashe,
Okay.
you have a question. Toluwalashe. Nope.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, sorry about that. So I was trying to follow this step, but at the point, I think I got slowed down. Then I lost track of what I was doing.
Okay. Adeshola, do you have a question?
Yes, I was following you, but I didn't receive a code at all. So I was stuck at the beginning. I didn't receive any code.
So when you say you were stuck at the beginning, what beginning? Let's see your screen very quickly in 1 minute, if you can share.
All right.
Because now we're on the board, I'm going to start sharing my screen after you've shared your screen.
Yeah, I said I didn't receive any code.
Do you want to share your screen, please?
Yeah, I'm sharing. Can you see? Oh, sorry. Yeah, can you see now?
And the code did not come in your email. No code in
No.
your email, no code in your spam. Okay,
No.
resend it. Click on resend it then.
Yeah, I just
Email sent with new code. Please check your inbox. Can you refresh, please? It might just be that your system is slow, and you would find out, don't worry about it. Don't fret about it. You will find out that that code will come in at some point, either before the end of this call or after this call. Trust me, the code will come in. Yeah. Okay. All right. Stop sharing. You have the recording, Adeshola, so don't stress too much about that. Okay. You have the recording. So let me share my screen, and then let's now look on the board. So 1 second. Okay, can we see my screen, guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So this is where we got to with Mabel as well. And for everyone else that has gotten to this point, your board right now will not have any of this in there, okay? So I created this earlier on today. I created these stories earlier on today. I've created epics earlier on today, but I will show you how I created all of this, okay? Now, what you have right now is a plain board. Let me put it that way, because you don't have any epics, you don't have any stories on your board. If we can be muted, please, that would be well appreciated. Thank you. You don't have any stories, you don't have any epics on your board right now, okay? Now, let us start first by doing what we would usually do first, okay? That is creating our epic. There are a couple of things that I will show you on the call, and the things that I will show you on the call are the things that I feel like will get you by if you get your jobs tomorrow and you find out that they're not using Azure DevOps and what they're using is Jira, right? The things that we will go through today would at least give you that level of understanding to confidently say that you can use Jira. When I did my internship and my training and internship with Blue Sky as well, it was with Azure DevOps. But the good thing was that we had a session like this with Jira, and I was able to create my own personal Jira board and practice with it. And from my very first role, it was Jira the organization was using. I think my latest project right now is the first project ever since I started working that we're using Azure DevOps. It's always been Jira, okay? But the level of understanding I got from the platform back then was able to get me through using Jira board. And that's what I'm trying to get us, the stage I'm trying to get us to today. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Okay, so the first thing that we want to look at now on the Jira board is creating epics. And I'm sure that we're all familiar with the word epics now, okay? You would see that at the top here, you have epic, right? If you click on that drop down, you would see that, don't worry about all of this. These are epics that are already created. But if you click on the drop down, you would see you have a toggle button there that has been disabled. Now, if you want to create your epic, what you need to do is enable that toggle button. And it would open up a left panel for you. You wouldn't see all of this as well on there. Don't worry, it will be empty. But what you want to do to create your first epic is click on Create Epic. Okay? When you click on Create Epic, then you would see that box open, that text box will open up. And it's saying, what will the epic be called? Meaning that, what are you going to call your epic? What do you want to call your epic? Okay? Now, let's say, for example, I want to call my epic, let me call my epic, let's just do home page, for example. Let's just do that. Type it in and click enter. And that epic will be created automatically for you, and you would have your epic there. Okay, that's your epic. Now, one thing I want to quickly show us is this. On the Jira board, on your Azure board, Azure DevOps board, when you want to create your epics from your backlog, you would usually go on the left side navigation panel and click on backlog, right? You go on the backlog, you click on the epic, whatever, you create your epics and all of that in the backlog, okay? And when you want to go on your sprint board, you go back on the left panel, you click on your sprint board to go to your sprint board. Now, one thing Jira has is that from this view that you have here, just this one page you have here, you can create your epics from this view, create your stories from this view, and you also have your backlog on the same view, right? And also, you can actually view your sprint board from this view as well. Your sprint backlog, let me put it that way. You can, so any story that we push into sprint, and we will start a sprint and push stories into sprint today, any stories that we pull into the sprint from the backlog, we can pull into the sprint from this view and pull it in here. And this is our sprint backlog, not the board. The sprint board is here. We'll get to the sprint board, but this is our sprint backlog. Okay, but I'm going to close that for a minute. So what I'm trying to say is that on this one page on Jira, you can actually create your epics, have a view of your epics, have a view of your backlog, and still have a view of your sprint backlog. Now, one thing that I do the one thing I find useful with this is that when I'm using Jira at work and we have maybe like, say we have our backlog refinement, for example, I do my backlog refinement from here. So I'll close the Epic panel. I do my backlog refinement from here. Okay, we refine the backlog from here and all of that. The one thing that I do on the sprint board is just a daily stand-up. Okay, so I'll go back on the epics now. Now we've created an epic. We've created one epic on the call today. Yeah, and you've seen how we create epics. Now let's go into creation of stories. If you need more space on your board for better view and visibility of what you have in your backlog, just close the epic panel. And you can always open up your epic panel if you need to at any point. Okay, all right, cool. So what we want to do now is in Jira, right? I know in Azure DevOps we call it epic, we call it features, then we have our user stories, then we have our tasks, and we have our bugs, and we call them all of this. In Jira, we call all these things issues. We call them issues. So either it's an epic, so we still call it epic, but Jira recognizes it as an issue, right? The stories, which we call the stories issues, the bugs issues, the task issues. So when you hear people using Jira and they're saying that, oh, okay, I'm creating an issue on my Jira board, do you get what I mean? It's just pretty much you asking, oh, are you creating a story or an epic? And they will say, oh no, I'm creating an epic, that sort of thing. Yeah, but that's what Jira calls them. Right? Now, we want to create a story. So what we'll do now is we'll create stories, and I will show you how you can link the different ways that you can link your stories to an epic. You can create your stories. You can open up your epic and create your stories in your epic as well. You can do that. But one thing you will find is, for me, as an example, sometimes when I'm working in the backlog, I just come on to Jira backlog and I create my stories, and then I just link them up with the epics. And it's pretty much, it's not hard to do, because all you're doing is you're just going to be dragging and dropping into the epic. Okay, so if you want to create, you will see that it's saying create issue. Now, let's say we want to create a story, a user story. It's not telling us to create a user story. It's not telling us to create a bug or create a task. It's saying create issue. So when you click on that, I've clicked on it now, and the green icon, right, tells you you're creating a user story in Jira. If that is blue, then you're creating a task. If it's red, you're creating a bug, right? And I would show us now. So you see that I've clicked on create issue, and it's automatically just asking me to create a story. But what if what I want to create is a bug or a task and not a story? Then all I need to do is click on this drop down, and it will give me the option of bug or task. So I can actually change that to say, no, I want to create a bug, not a story, or I want to create a task, not a story. Okay? Now, in this instance, we want to create a story, what you know as your user story, right? So we want to give the story a title. Okay, so let's give the story a title. For example, let's say, and let me do this off the top of my head now, because I've created some stories there. So I'll just say contact us page, something that you guys might be familiar with. Contact us page. I'll give that as a title for my story, and I'll click on enter. Okay, when you click on enter, it creates your story in there, and you've got your story number as well, 25, right? Okay, cool. So we've created a story. And the reason I created a lot of stories earlier on was because I didn't want us to waste too much time creating a lot of stories on the call today. So we've created a story. Now, the first thing is, let's say we've just created all of these stories now. One thing we want to do is we want to link our stories to our epics. Okay, Biodun, you have your hands up.
Sorry, I just want to ask the number that is bringing up. So if it says Scrum 2, what does that mean?
So that's because that's the what would I call it now? Like the name of the, I didn't really give it a project name. If you give it a project name, right, that was what you would see on there. And that's just the number for your story. So if I say maybe the project name is Mentor Skit, for example, now, right? So the thing is, I don't know if some people got to that stage before they got on the board where it's asking you to create a project. We will do that. We'll
Yeah.
create a project. You got
yes.
to that stage, right? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So at that point, if you put a project name in and say Mentors Kit, right? Jira will then, in the second text box after project name, it will then give you initials. It will probably give you maybe MS or MP, sort of. Okay, I don't know if you got that. Now, if it gives you that, that means you've created your project, it's giving you a project name. I didn't get to that stage, and I didn't use all of that, but I'll show you in a minute if we need to see that. And it will probably just put it there for me as the initials. Do you get what I mean? Pretty much, it's nothing to worry yourself about. You'll get used to that. And that's just the number, to be honest. It's not like it's anything to worry yourself about. Do you get what I mean? Okay. All right, cool. Now let's say we've created all of these stories on the call today. Okay, I'm just trying to make sure that we get through as much as we can on the call. Let's say we've created all of these stories now on this call, okay? And I want to link the stories to Epic because, of course, if anyone comes on your board for visibility, you want to make sure that they're seeing your stories, but they're not seeing Epics, okay? This is the only one that has an Epic linked to it, right? But I'm seeing the stories in your backlog, but they're not linked to any Epic. So I'm not sure what Epic are these stories linked to. Now, what I want to do is link the stories to an Epic. Please, if we can stay muted. Thank you.
Daddy?
Can we be muted, please?
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, I made a picture. Sorry.
Okay, so I'm going to enable my
Tinayo,
Epic.
please do not unmute again. Please, if you do, I'll just put you in the waiting room. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Bolu.
Sorry, Tolu.
That's okay, thank you. So I'm going to enable my Epic panel again because I want to link my stories to an Epic. Now, there are different ways you can link your stories to your Epic, right? You can create your, what's it called now? You can create your epics, open up your epics, and then start creating stories inside your epic. Automatically, that would link your epics to your stories to your epic. But what you find in reality is that sometimes BAs, especially when you're working in the backlog and you're creating epics and creating stories, especially when you've created your epics, but then you're creating stories and creating more stories, you find it easy to just create user story, create user story, create user story. And then you now have to do some sort of like double the work again by then linking those stories to the right epics. Now, one thing you can do on Jira is this. If you're working in the backlog and you're creating all your stories in the backlog, and then you want to link your stories to an epic, easy, yeah? What you need to do is just open up your epic panel, and what you'll be doing is you'll be dragging and dropping the stories in the right epic, and it will automatically link your stories to your epic. So let's take login, for example. So login, registration, login, email. I want to link the three of them to the epic that we've titled as security. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and hold down on registration, and I'm going to drag it and drop it inside security. And it would link it to that epic automatically for me. Okay, click down, hold down, drag and drop. 1 second, that didn't work. And then drag and drop. Yeah, but make sure you're dropping it in the right epic. Yeah, and that would link your stories to your epic, to your epics for you. Okay, so we've linked that. And let me just link a few more. Database cleanup, I'm going to link that to architecture, no, actually pipeline. I'm going to link, so you just have to be careful that you're pulling in. And then the other thing that you would also find is that you would see that all the epics they all have the purple color-coded stickers next to them, right? Now, because you don't want them all to have the same color stickers, you want to be able to say, okay, the purple stickers are for my architecture epics, the green stickers are for my pipeline epic. That's absolutely fine, okay? What you can do is, no, that's not what I wanted to do. You can easily just even open up your epic, click on the drop down, view all details, open up your epic. You can come on here, click on there and change the color of your epic for each of your epics. Okay, and that should work. Okay, let me clear filters. let's say security. Again, when you, oh no, I'm not creating an epic, sorry. Again, when you play around with your Jira board that you've created, you will, find a lot of these things pretty easy to do and to use, and you'll get used to it. Okay, so we'll just give a couple of them different color coding. We haven't used blue, have we? Let's use the teal. Close that one up. I think we're okay. So we still have two of these on purple. I might take questions at the end so that we're not slowing down too much. 1 second. So yeah, so you would see that they all have different color coded stickers right now. Okay. And someone has their hands up. So whilst I do this, if you want to ask your question very quickly, please.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I just have an observation that I want to ask a question about. I could see that since you've only been talking about backlog and Epic. So does that mean that in Jira there is something called feature like we have in Azure DevOps?
So yeah, so like I mentioned earlier on as well, and to say that, in Jira, we don't have features. Okay, we don't have features in Jira. What we have in Jira is we have the Epic, we have the stories, we have the task, we have the bugs. Now, in saying that, remember that what we're using for this session is a free version of Jira. When you work in organizations, a lot of organizations, let me just say a lot, I don't want to say all organizations, a lot of organizations will probably most likely not be using the free version. Okay, they'll probably be using more of like the paid, the premium, let me call it maybe premium version that is paid for. And on that, you can actually get lots of other, you can, it's not like it comes, not all of it comes with it. Some of it, it's like add-ons, like you have to, of course, the company has to pay for. An example is one of the projects I've worked on using Jira boards. We had themes. So our layers, our process started from themes. And the themes is usually more of the bigger story than the epics. So it was the layer for us was like we start from the themes, but then we go on to, was it themes we were calling it then actually? Yeah, I think it was. Then we go on to the epic, then we go on to the stories. So it was that way. So, but this is a free version. So obviously we can't really do more paid stuffs or premium stuffs on this one. Do you get what I mean? But in saying that, irrespective of if they get add-ons for maybe features or whatever, trust me, this is all you need on your Jira board, to be honest with you. You need your epic, your stories. So there's no features. It doesn't come with Jira, pretty much. Do you get what I mean? Yeah? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much.
Cool.
So that means that means if we are able to get a requirement elicitation from the PO, we shouldn't go into division of them into epic features and backlogs then. If we are using Jira.
If you're using Jira and you get your requirements, right?
Yeah.
You create your epics from your requirements and then you break it down to your stories, which will be your next level.
Okay.
On Azure DevOps, you know what you're doing is epic features, stories.
Yes.
Right? Okay. So what we're doing now on Jira is epic, then we're going down to the level of the stories. Yeah?
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've changed the colors of the stickers on each of the epics. So we now have different colors. So I know that the purple ones are for my pipeline epics, my pipeline stories. I know the blue ones are for the stories with the landing page, that sort of thing. Okay. So you do that for all make sure that you link all your stories to an epic. Okay. Best practice. Let's make sure we're following best practice. Right? So I won't do too much of this because of time. Let's crack on. Now, you would notice that we haven't, before we even get to the point where we start to assign, let's even look at where we open up a story what do we put in the stories? Now, being mindful again that when you work in a big organization and you're using Jira, they will most likely configure your Jira board to suit purpose, to suit the project that you're working on. Okay, so some things again that you would not see on the free version, but you will get in a more on a version that is being paid for, or the premium version. Let me just use the word premium. Okay, now let's open up one of the ones that you're familiar with. Let's open up login or registration, for example. Okay, so I want to open up the story. When you open up your story, again, what you have on here is in one view, on one page, you have your epics. You can see your epics, you can see your backlog, and you can see the story that you've opened up that you want to work on. But maybe at this point, you want to work in the story, but you don't really need to see the epic. You can always close that up to create more space for yourself. Okay, you can always open up the story itself as well, and it opens up on a full page for you. Yeah, if you want, you can always hover on the middle line there, and you can open it more as well. Up to you what you want to do. Okay, now in your story, you have the story title. Okay, you can link issues or link web pages and all of that using that icon. You can add a child issue. So, you know, in Azure DevOps, how you have the parent as the epic, the future as a child to the epic, the story as a child to the future, that sort of thing, right? On here as well, you have your epic as a parent, you have your user story as a child. And if I want to create a child under the story, it would be a task, right? If you click on that, then it will just open this up for you and ask you what's the name of the task that you want to create. Okay. Now, oops, sorry. So let's open that one up again. Okay, cool. So now what we want to do is, and here you have attachment. If you want to attach anything to that, the 3 ellipses here is just, you know, if you want to add any apps to that story, whatever. So this story is still in the to-do status. Okay, if you click on that drop down, you have the other status in there that you want, that you can, if it's in BA, you want to move it or whatever. But remember, we're still working in the backlog. We're still in the backlog, right? And when you're in the, you want to start saying this story is in BA because we're not meant to be working from the backlog. Okay. All right, cool. Now you have description. Can we be muted, please? Now we have our description box. Okay. In here, where you have your description box, this is where you can now put in your story and you can put in your acceptance criteria. Okay, so you can say things like maybe as a developer or as a user. Let me not complicate things too much for you. So you can say as a user, I want to show that. Okay, so you can pop that in there. And then what you can then do again is just click your enter button, and then you can put your acceptance criteria here as well. Okay, given that all of that stuff. And then we're clicking on save. Okay, we want to save that. I'm going to ignore that Confluence thing for now. And then you have other stuffs on there where you have your assignee. Now, if you are the one that has created that user story in the backlog, right, you will automatically be the reporter of that story, right? So this is the name that I created the Jira board with, yeah, Fadegoye. So because I created the user stories, automatically it would have my name as the reporter because I created the user story. Now let's say maybe I'm creating the user story on behalf of another BA, right? And it has my name on there because I created it. I can always change the name to say, I'm actually creating this for Bolu, so let me just put Bolu's name there as a reporter. But automatically by default, it would have your name if you're creating a user story. Now let's go back up to assignee, right? So let's say you're in sprint planning and you want to assign a ticket, a story to someone, right? You have that box in there. When you click on it, it gives you a drop down of your team members, and you can just select whoever is, you want to assign that ticket to. Okay. You can see we have our parent there, which is the epic that we've linked that to. Your sprint, that's the textbook for your sprint. We haven't even started the sprint yet. We have the sprint 1 box, but we haven't committed anything into sprint. If we have, then we could have probably clicked on that, but we haven't. Your story point estimation, you can pop it in there with story pointing as a 3, that sort of thing, okay? That's what that is for. So your releases, your reporter, like I said, you can configure your story and add more fields to your story using the configure button, okay? I'm just going to run through some really pretty basic stuff that I know that if you know, you're good to go with Jira, okay? And then what you have here is you have this text box, right? Now, this is where you can add comments. So maybe the developer, a tester, a QA wants to, tag a developer and put a message in there. You can put your message in here. If you have a comment that you want to put up for this story that you work, that's the text box. That's the box to use for that. If you want to look at the history, who has done what, when it was done, who moved what, who created what, and all of that, you would see that, I've done all of that, I've done all of that. It would show on that history, okay? If you want to view all, so you're not specifically saying just comments or stories and all of that. You want to view comments and all of that, just click on all and you will have visibility of that, okay? So I'm going to close that for now, right? Okay, now we've created epics, we've created user stories, we've linked our stories to our epics. We've looked at the stories itself and where you have your story points box, where you can put your story points, where you can put your stories and acceptance criteria, how you can assign your stories to the team member that is working on the stories, putting up the comment and all of that. We've looked at all of that, right? Now, when you assign a story to someone, it shows in your backlog as well. It shows that this story is assigned to Fade. This is the title of the story. This is the epic of the story. It's still in the to-do status. It is assigned to this person. Now I'm going to open the story and I'm going to put an estimation on the story. And you would see how you would also be able to view. Okay. So if I put a story point and I say this, I'm estimating this as a 3, and I check that. Now what you would find is on your board, on your backlog there, you have your story, you have your epic link to it. That's the status. It's been estimated as a 3 story point and it's assigned to Fade. So you have a view of all of that on the board, on the screen, yeah, on the page. Okay. Now what we want to do is this. In your backlog, right? In your backlog, let's say we're having a sprint refinement right now, yeah, and we're prioritizing stories for the next sprint. What I would usually do is in my backlog, do my prioritization in my backlog during backlog refinement. So if we're being told that, for next sprint, registration is our top priority, I click down and I drag it to the top, right? And then we've taken in login as well. Click, drag down, drag up to the top, I'll prioritize them like that in order of priority, that way, okay? So we do all of that. And then once we've done all of that, I know, okay, the first 10 that we've pushed up are the top priorities for next sprint, during refinement, all the stuff that you do during your refinement session. Now, let's now say we're in sprint planning, for example. So in sprint planning, you're looking at the stories that have been prioritized, you're checking priorities to make sure they're still the same, nothing has changed, the PO has said nothing has changed and all of the good stuff there. Now, what you want to make sure is, okay, Fade is picking up this story, that this is going into the next sprint as well. You're making sure your user story and acceptance criteria is in there as well. You want to make sure that it's assigned to someone. So what we're trying to do now is we're getting ready to start a sprint, right? It's assigned to someone. Story point estimation, you're putting a 5 in there, for example. What else do we need? I think we're good with that for now. So just imagine you have your story in there, your user story and acceptance criteria. And then let's just do 2 more and then let's start create a sprint and then we'll move on to the sprint board because we haven't even looked at the sprint board yet, guys. So you'll probably just find that I'm assigning to Fade because I haven't added anyone else to this board. So you'll probably just have that one person showing on the board for now. Okay. And then let's just do one more. Let's do database cleanup. So let's do that one. Okay. Just assigned to me. The story points, the story point is as a 3 as well. Okay, cool. So let's do that. Now let's just take these 4 stories as our priorities for the sprint. Now, when you create your Jira board, yeah, and you create your episode and you start working on your board in the backlog, rather, we start working on your backlog, you would see that automatically by default, and I want to be sure that those that are on the same page with me right now, that are actually working through the process with me right now, you'll find out that Jira will automatically create a sprint 1 for you. Okay, by default, it will just create a sprint 1 for you. Okay, now what we want to do now is, but for the sprint 2 and all of that, you will see how that works now. So what we want to do now is we now want to, during sprint planning, commit this ticket into sprint. Okay, different ways that you can do it. You can hold down to that story. Actually, let me open up the sprint 1 backlog. Okay, I'll open that one up. And then you can click down on that, drag and drop it into the sprint. We haven't started the sprint yet. We're starting to just commit the stories into sprint. So you can hold down, click, drag, and drop into the sprint. Okay? Yeah. And then the other way that you can, my laptop is messing up. Okay. The other way that you can do that is you can actually, I want to believe that you can do it from here. If you click on the 3 ellipses there, move to, right? If you're doing your refinement, you can use this system as well to move to the top of the backlog if it's priority. So I'm going to say move to Scrum to sprint 1, and it will just move that story into the sprint for me. Okay, so I'll do that again with this story, with this one here. You can click on the 3 ellipses, go to move to, and just click on the sprint you want to move it into, and it would move it. Or you can do your drag and drop. Yeah? Okay, so we've got that one. So that's it. We've committed the stories into the sprint. Now we want to start our sprint. You would see that you have the start sprint. If you're starting your sprint, best practice, again, let's just make sure that we're not taking stories into sprints that has no estimation and that has not been assigned to anyone. Okay, so we want to make sure that whatever stories we're taking into the sprint has been assigned to someone and has an estimation, a story point estimation on this as well. Okay, cool. So now we can start our sprint. So I'll click on start sprint there. And when you click on start sprint, it will bring up this pop-up box for you. Okay, now what this pop-up box is saying is that, one second, let me move the Zoom thingy. So what this pop-up box is saying is that we have 5 issues that will be included in the sprint. You see what it's calling it? It's calling it issues. It's not saying user stories, right? So even if we had, let's say we were in maybe sprint 2 or sprint 3, and we're bringing in a bug into the sprint to fix the bug, right? To fix the defect. We pull it into sprint, it will tell us we have 6 issues. It won't tell us we have 5 stories and 1 bug, right? 6, it will tell us issues. Now it's saying that this is sprint 1, it's a 2-week duration. If your sprint is a 1-week duration, you can click on that drop down and then just click on how many weeks it is. Or if you want to customize your sprint, then you can use the custom feature there. And it's telling us the time that, it's just 8 o'clock now, but it was 7:59 that I clicked on start sprint. It's giving us the time there. It's giving us the end date as well. And this is where you will put your sprint goal. Okay, so let's say maybe, let's just say, for example, complete development of registration. I'll just put a 1-liner there and log in. Okay, so I'll just put a 1-liner there. So you put your sprint goals in there and then you click on start. And you see that as soon as I clicked on start, it's moved from 7:59, it moved to 20:01, because that's when I clicked on the start button. And then it automatically starts your sprint and brings you on the sprint board. It starts your sprint and bring you on the sprint board. So you see how we were navigated to the sprint board now from the backlog when we started the sprint, right? Now, on your sprint board, you would find that you have to do, in progress, and done. By default, Jira would not give you in BA in dev. I actually configured this myself, and I'll show you how. By default, what you will have on your sprint board on Jira is to do, in progress, and done, right? But you can configure your board and add more columns on your board, okay? Oh, sorry. You can do that. So these are the 5 stories that we've committed into sprints, and it's told us that we have 5 stories in to do, and you can start to move them across the board like you would usually do on your Azure board. So let's say that I want to have in QA, for example, and I want to add a column to this board that says in QA, all right? I'll go on there, manage my workflow. Sorry, this thing is blocking my screen. 1 second. Manage my workflow, okay. And you would see that you have different status here. You have to do, in progress, done, you have those different status there. Now, in QA, when a ticket is in QA, I want it to still reflect that it is still in progress, because if it's in QA, it's not done. It's still being worked on, right? It's still being worked on. It's not done. So I wanted to have that status of in progress, okay? So I'm going to create in QA under that status, okay? Create in QA in progress status, okay? So I'll create that and I will add that. What I have now is that it's added in QA, but I have it, not in the right order. I can always move it and rearrange it from here, right? Or I'll click on update workflow, save and continue. Or I can move it as well from might take some time for the update to reflect. Okay, 1 second. Let me go back to my story. 1 second. Okay. So I just have to keep moving this thing around. It's blocking my view. Okay, cool. So you can either move it from there, or you can actually drag and drop from this view as well, from here as well. If you hover on it, I can drag and drop my QA here and my done, because your done, of course, is your last column to say that we're done with this. Yeah, so I can rearrange by dragging and dropping from this view as well. I can do it from the workflow itself. Okay, so that's how I've configured the sprint board like you have on your Azure DevOps. Okay, so we've created our epics, we've created our stories, we've linked our epics to our stories. We've looked at the stories on how to assign, our story pointing and all of that good stuff, and also starting the sprint and, creating and configuring our sprint board. Okay. Any questions at this point? So what I usually do as well that I find useful, is you would see that the sprint has started. So the guys are working on the sprint, right? Now, you would see that the sprint board, if you want to view the sprint board, you click on board, it takes you to the sprint board, right? Now, I want to go back in my backlog, either as a Scrum Master, or BA, or QA developer, whoever wants to create a story. I can go back in my backlog, and from my backlog, I can see the status of. I can still see this. This is not the sprint board. This is a sprint backlog. So the sprint backlog, like reflects everything that you have in your sprint board or your sprint board. So this is everything we have in the sprint. So I don't necessarily have to go on the board to see what is in the sprint. I can see what is in the sprint here, and then continue to work in my backlog. Let's say that maybe the BA or someone has moved a ticket across the board into progress. Then the status on the backlog would also change. So now I'm coming in and I'm saying that, oh, Fade has moved this ticket into progress in the sprint. The other tickets are not in progress yet, but Olawumi told me yesterday that she started working on email story and she hasn't moved it on the board. So I'm checking with Olawumi as a Scrum Master to say, have you actually picked up the email story? If yes, please can you move it across the board to the right to reflect the right status? That sort of thing. Okay, then if I don't want this to block my view or disturb me and I just want to work in the backlog, you can always click on that. And then you have your backlog and you can continue to work in your backlog. Now, one thing that I find useful on this as well that I use this for, that I do on Jira as well when I work with Jira is we're currently in sprint 1. We're working on stories in sprint 1. That's fine. The guys can crack on with their stories. Within my role as a Scrum Master, what I usually do is I will just come here and I'll create my sprint 2, create sprint. When I click on create sprint, the system automatically, creates the sprint 2 for me because it knows that we're in sprint 1 and obviously the next sprint will be sprint 2. Now, why did I do that? Or why do I do that? I do that because whilst the guys are working on the sprint, remember that we're starting to now gather the priorities or maybe doing refinements. Now we want to go into refinements, whilst the guys are still working the sprint. And we're in the refinement session, we want to understand the next priorities for next sprint. So we go on the refinement call. I've created that. Mind you, I can close it up that way, so it's not blocking anything, okay? And you would see that it's automatically giving me the next start date and end date as well, okay? So if I open it up, when backlog refinement, the guys are working in the sprint and we want to get priorities for next sprint, and we're told this is a priority, I'll just drag it and I'll drop it in sprint 2. I'm not starting the sprint, I'm just dragging and dropping. Sorry, my system is a bit funny. Okay, I'll just do that. Move 2, you would see that it's asking me, do I want to move it into sprint 1, which is the current sprint, or sprint 2? So I'm just going to move it to sprint 2 because I want to keep it there. Okay, so we're not starting sprint 2. What we're doing is we're getting the next set of priorities that needs to go into the next sprint. And what we're doing is that we're starting to bring them into the sprint 2 that we've created. That's what I'm doing here, right? And what that also helps us to do is the BAs or whoever needs to then populate these tickets with stories, then comes in the backlog and sees that, okay, these are the priorities for sprint 2. We need to make sure we have these stories ready. If it needs a wireframe needs to go in there. User story needs to be in there. ACs needs to be in there before sprint planning. So what they're doing is they're going to be, rather than focusing on stories that are not priority, they're going to be focusing on making sure that these stories that are priority are actually ready for sprint planning. Now, we could get into when they're done, it doesn't mean that they shouldn't look in the backlog anymore. When they're done with, populating the stories and getting them ready, making sure that they meet the definition of ready, when they're done with these ones, then they can obviously come into the backlog and continue working on the other stories in the backlog, right? So what then happens is that during sprint planning, let's say, for example, the product owner or whoever is giving you your priorities, tells you that actually, we need to get a sign off for gate 1 before we can get signed off for gate 2. So gate 2 is not a priority right now. I would rather, for now, for sprint 2, I'd rather take out the prioritized gate 2 architecture sign off and bring up set up test environment story. What you then do in that case is just, I've opened that up, sorry. Just drag and drop architecture gate 2 sign off. My drag and drop is not working as it should. Yep, that's fine. Drag and drop it back into the backlog and then just pull up. Oh, sorry about that. Sorry about that. Apologies. Okay, I see hands up. Just bear with me 1 second. Just clicked on the wrong thing there. So, yeah. So I've removed that from the priority for sprint 2. And all I need to do is then drag the set up test environment story into sprint 2. Yeah. So I find that useful. And then we know that, okay, that is now a priority. So I find that useful as well on Jira. Okay. And once we're done with that, we can just close that up so nobody accidentally clicks on start sprint. In fact, the only people that can accidentally start a sprint would be anyone that has admin rights to your Jira board. So maybe your Scrum Master, your PO, or if your BA has admin rights, My BA doesn't have admin rights. I have admin rights, and to the board. So sometimes the admin rights could be limited. It's if on a need to have basis, if you need to have it. It's only just recently that I've said, I want the BA to also have admin rights, just in case when I go on annual leave, they're able to do what needs to be done on the board, rather than chase people up. Okay. So what then I can do is, now we have our priorities. I'll close that up so it doesn't confuse anyone. I'll close that up, and that's us done and ready for sprint 2. Okay. Now, let me just take questions very quickly. 1 second. Let me see. Hands. Adeolu, you have your hand up.
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
Okay, good. Thanks. So I wanted to confirm on Jira, is it the same timeline with Azure DevOps in terms of planning, like 2 weeks before the next sprint?
So
that's my first question.
Yeah, let me answer the first one first, so that I don't forget. So for the first question, it is not your Jira board or your Azure board that will determine the length of your sprint. Okay? Yeah. You're working on a project, you've decided, the organization or the business, or as a team or whatever, you've looked at the project, you've looked at outcome, because deciding the length of your sprint sometimes also depends on the complexity of your project, right? So you've agreed, or it's been decided that, it will be a 2-weekly sprint. When you're starting your sprint, you're configuring your board, you configure it and start your sprint as a 2-weekly sprint. If it's a 1-weekly sprint, you remember that when I started the sprint 1, when I clicked on start sprint, remember that pop-up box that came up? There was a box there that was asking me for the sprint duration. By default, Jira already has 2 weeks in there, but there was a drop down, and I clicked on that drop down. When I clicked on that drop down, I had other options of 1 week, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I even had an option of custom, if I want to customize my sprint. Do you get what I mean? So if you feel like, if Jira gives you a 2-weekly sprint and you feel like, no, our sprint is a weekly sprint, for example, a 3-weekly sprint, you can always then click on whatever is applicable. So it is not the board, it is not the Jira board or Azure board that determines the timeline for your sprint. I hope that helps.
Yes, it does. So my second question is, at what point is the work of a business analyst done on the backlog? Because I can see that estimation is done there, and assigning, and who does the estimation and who assigns? Is it the Scrum Masters or same as business analyst?
Okay, I'm not sure if that question is for this session, but I will just answer you I'll just summarize the answer for you, okay? So that we're not deviating too much. Now, in terms of story estimation, it is done by the team during sprint planning. I'm sure you probably are doing that right now. I would believe that you're doing that right now, okay? During your sprint planning, right? The developers, the QAs, they estimate their stories. It's not the Scrum Masters that estimates the stories, okay? And in terms of assigning stories as well, the team should be self-managed or self-organized enough to be able to pick up and assign tickets to themselves. Best practice, even the Scrum Master shouldn't be assigning tickets. Okay. What else did you ask me? I think that was it, right? Did I
No,
miss
I said, at what point is the work of a BA done? Is it after writing the stories?
No. So as long as as a BA, right, your work is not done. As long as that project is still alive, you're still working. As long as the project is still alive and you're still assigned to that project, because you're still going to be making sure that, there are stories in your backlog ready for the other sprints, right? You're still gathering requirements, you're still analyzing requirements. So there's still work for the BA to do. It doesn't mean that because work has been estimated and assigned and committed into a sprint, the work of a BA is done. No, the work of the BA is not done. There'll probably be more requirements for you to gather. There'll probably be training sessions that you need to do, or maybe, analyzing requirements. There is still work to do. And whilst the developers have estimated stories and they've committed the stories into sprint and they are working on the stories in the sprint, the BAs are expected to continue to work in the backlog. So you will be working ahead of the guys because you're preparing for them the work that they need to take into the next sprint. If the BAs don't get the stories ready in the backlog, there will be nothing for the developers to commit into the next sprint. Do you get where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I understand that. That means as well, the BAs does testing on Jira.
Okay,
The
so
user acceptance testing.
okay, so I would say that a lot of these BA related questions, because that's not what the session is for, I would say speak to your BA mentor about it. Okay, but again, I would just say that as a BA, you might be working on a project where the BAs do the UAT. You might be working on a project where it could be just only the users or selected set of the users are carrying out UAT. It depends on what has been agreed on the project, a part of your ways of working, who does the UAT. I found myself doing UAT as a Scrum Master before, right? Okay, so yes, as a BA, you might find yourself on a project where the BAs, you are doing UAT. Okay, I hope that helps, Adeolu. Adebayo.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tolu Yesufu, for that interesting session.
Oh, you called me
My
by my
question
name.
is not about.
That's not common.
Can you hear me, please?
I can hear you.
Yeah, please. My question is not based on the Jira. Is actually I joined the class unavoidably lately, and the setup have already started. So my question is, if I watch the video later, will I be able to set up my own board?
The answer is yes. You would be able to set up your own board.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Max.
Yes, thank you. Well done. Two questions very quickly. I'm not sure I've come across any tab in Azure DevOps. I'm seeing something in the Scrum sprint or in the sprint board where it says complete sprint, like a menu is there. So why is it suggesting that I should complete sprint when it's already time boxed? I think it's supposed to automatically hand sprint, except I adjust it, like you said, it could be customized. I'm not sure I came across that in Azure board at any point in time. And then the second question is, where is the wiki site? I don't know if it's called wiki and Jira. Where is the wiki site of on Jira? Thank you.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Mark. So like I mentioned earlier as well, so the Azure board and the Jira board, pretty much you use them for the same thing. They just, Jira is Atlassian, Azure board is owned by Microsoft, right? And there are some things that you might find on your Azure board that you might not find on your Jira board that maybe you have to then, go to the, what do we call it on Jira now? Is it the market? We call it market extension or something to get them in there. So there are a few differences here and there, but you can still get add-ons and stuff like that, okay? So in terms of complete sprint, again, like I said, right? If you don't have admin rights, you won't be able to start sprints, you won't be able to edit sprints, you won't be able to delete sprints, you won't be able to complete sprints, okay, if you don't have admin rights, Now, this complete sprint itself, if you've set the time for the time frame for your sprint as 2 weeks, right? Even during the sprint, sometimes you would find that if you hover on the complete sprint, it will probably not highlight it for you. Right? It will probably not highlight it for you to be able to click on it to complete the sprint. At the end of the sprint, the sprint ends today. You're starting a new sprint tomorrow. Your sprint planning is starting tomorrow because you've ended the sprint today. You can then complete sprint and click on complete sprint. Okay. If I click on complete sprint now, actually it's enabled for me probably because I have the admin rights, right? But the thing is, if you click on complete sprint, it will tell you before you can even complete the sprint, there will be a pop-up box that will come up on the screen just to make sure that you're not making a mistake. So you can't accidentally complete a sprint. There will be a pop-up box on the screen telling you how many stories you have left, how many stories has been completed. Do you want to complete the sprint? Do you want to end the sprint? If it's the last day of your sprint, you're starting sprint planning tomorrow, you can, close of play today, or maybe first thing tomorrow morning, you can close your sprint. Whenever you close your sprint, you can close your sprint and click on complete sprint. And then what then happens on that pop-up box, when you're completing your sprint or closing your sprint, it's asking you again to say that the stories that were not completed within the sprint, it would give you options. Do you want to move them back into the backlog before you start the next sprint tomorrow, or do you want to bring them back into the next sprint? So you can select whatever options applies to you that you want. Oh, I want to commit them back into the next sprint. Maybe because during refinement, the PO has said, whatever is not completed this last sprint, bring them back into the next sprint. You can put them back in. If the PO has said, maybe during sprint plan, no, we haven't completed that one, but that's fine. Pull it back in the backlog. We have more higher priorities that needs to go into the sprint. Then you can then select the option of. One thing with Jira is that whenever you click on Jira, you would get a pop-up that would, ask you questions just to make sure that you're not making a mistake. Okay, cool.
Okay.
That answers that question. You had a second question, which was
the wiki side of where we can pull documents and
the wiki part of Jira. So I'm sure you probably must have heard about Confluence. Okay, let me share my. Yes. So you probably would have heard of Confluence. Confluence is part of is an Atlassian product as well, and it's part of Jira. Okay. So when you find yourself working in an organization where sorry, I stopped sharing so I can see the answer that I hope and answer questions, because I'm being mindful of time. We have 7 minutes to go. When you find yourself in an organization and you're using Jira, the Confluence space is usually your wiki space. So that's where the wiki that you have on your Azure DevOps is what we call it Confluence on Jira. And that's pretty much your space where you can save documents, upload documents, and all of the good stuff that you're doing on your wiki page on Azure DevOps now. You use your Confluence space for that. Okay?
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
No worries, you're welcome. So again, like I said at the start, guys, the stuff that we've gone through today, because again, we're being mindful of time. And, note that I'm sure that even your Azure board, I'm sure that even when you had your session on Azure board, you probably did not cover everything in one session. I'm sure there are things that you went back on to try on Azure boards and you had questions and you came back to your Scrum mentors or to your tutors to ask questions, or you just, went about it, figuring it out yourself, that sort of thing. But what we've gone through today, Biodun, I'll take your question in a minute. What we've gone through today, if you're able to walk through that, right? Creating Epic, creating stories, linking stories to Epic, story pointing, estimating on your stories. I showed you, I also clicked on the subtask icon to show you how to create your task inside your stories. All of this good stuff that we've gone through today, configuring your sprint board. If you watch the recording back and you're able to practice all of this on your own, every other thing will start to fall into place. Every other thing will start to fall into place. Okay, Biodun, you have a question.
Yes, please. Thank you very much. So I just wanted to ask, when I open the story, because I know when you're sharing, when you open the stories, one of the stories that you created, and then as part of it, it shows the Confluence pages, and then it says, on the 3 ellipses, it says, not interested. Why am I saying this? Does that mean that each story do we need to add something at that section? Is that what it is for, or that section where it says Confluence pages, do we need to add?
If you click, if you click on where, if you click on not interested, it will probably just take it off for you. Yeah. But if you click on the Confluence, the link itself that came up as the Confluence link that came up, if you click on it, you would see that it will take you into Confluence, isn't it? Did you do that? Did you click on it?
I've not clicked on it, but it just says just gave me 2 options, like not interested. Why am I saying this? And then
if you click on not interested, it will take it off.
All right, okay.
It will take it off.
But do we need to use this? Do we need to add anything to it in terms of when we are creating the stories? What's that meant for?
So it can be, so like, again, your Confluence space is your wiki space, is your wiki page, right? So maybe if there's a documentation on your wiki page that needs to be linked to a story, you can use that to link it to your story. There are different things that there are different ways you can link stuff from your Confluence to your Jira stories, right? or that to your Jira stories. Do you get what I mean? So that it just could be that you have a document on your Confluence page and you want to link it to a story so that developer has visibility of it on the story rather than going to the Confluence page to get it. But it's just there to say that we have this feature on here for you to use if you want to use it. And that is why it's giving you the not interested, why am I seeing these options when you clicked on that 3 ellipses, just so that if you say, why am I seeing this? Or if you say, I'm not interested, it takes it off for you, but it's there to let you know that I have this here for you to use if you want to use me.
Okay, thank you.
Right, okay. Okay, I've answered Mark. I don't see any other hands up, so I want to believe that there are no more questions. So guys, I've run through some pretty basic stuff on Jira with us today that can get you started on Jira, right? Went through pretty quickly because, you know, being aware of time, giving ourselves enough time to go through as much as we can, and also giving ourselves enough time to ask and answer questions. And that's why you would see that I've gone pretty as fast as I can on the call so that I don't take too much of your time. We have 3 minutes left. If we do not have any other questions, thank you so much, guys. I hope it's been useful for you. Please go ahead and practice on the personal, the Jiras that you've created. You know, just do your practice on it, create your epics, create your stories, link them up. If you have any questions, you know, feel free to just ask your mentors as well. Your mentors are, you know, they're pretty good on Jira as well. Ask your mentors, you know, if you have any questions, or yeah, I would leave it at that. But otherwise, I'll give us 2 minutes back of our time for Olawumi to round up the call. Thank you so much, guys, and have a good evening.